Yo, what's up, guys? It's Noah here, breaking down the NBA slate on Draftkings and Yahoo for Friday, January the 31st. We're going to go through Friday's 7-game slate. We do have a pretty fun slate ahead. A lot of injuries today that we'll talk about. Some key injuries. Guys like Giannis are questionable, AD questionable, Luka Doncic already been ruled out. So we're definitely going to have some value today. This feels like one of those slates that's going to be pretty chalky. I think you're going to see a lot of high-owned plays today. A lot of concentrated ownership, which always makes it a very appealing tournament slate if you're going to have a lot of guys be really popular. Obviously, as we go through each position, I'll talk about some of the chalky plays that we have today, what I'm seeing the night before, recording this video Thursday night, the guys that really stand out to me looking at this slate on Thursday night. Before we do get started, though, guys, as always, I would appreciate it if you would drop a like down below. You can subscribe to the channel if you have not yet. You can also click that notification bell so that way you do get notified every time I upload. And if you haven't yet, you can follow me on Twitter. Link down below is my Twitter account at DFS by Noah. Also, link down below is my Patreon. I do have a ton of exclusive content that I put out throughout the day over on Patreon. I will have my article posted for this slate in the afternoon, usually around 2 o'clock Eastern Time. I'll give updated core plays over on Patreon. This feels like a day where there's going to be a lot of updates. There's a lot of injuries we're going to watch. The slate could change. Like, by the time you're watching this video, things could definitely change. Guys like Giannis could be out. AD could be out, which just totally changes the slate. These are kind of my first looks at the slate. I do provide a lot of updated and in-depth content over on Patreon. So if you want to get access to that, you can check out the Patreon link down below and see all that I do have to offer over there. But let's go ahead and take a look at point guard for today, guys. At the top, Luka obviously out today. We already got that news. He's going to be out for this game, and I think he's going to miss a few more games as well. So James Harden, Russell Westbrook, LeBron, Lillard, these are some of our expensive options at the top of the point guard position today. And I think all of these guys look appealing. Like I said at the beginning, this feels like a slate where we are going to have a lot of value. It should be pretty easy to get one, if not two of these studs in. Right now, it's pretty close between like Westbrook and LeBron for me. Westbrook's just been playing at such a high level. It's really hard to like decide between Westbrook and Harden right now. Like, I know Harden's going to be somewhat low owned because he's been so just poor as of late. His game log does not look pretty. He's been shooting pretty poor from the field. Like, last two games, 23%, 27% from the field. He was 0 for 6 from 3 against Minnesota, 2 for 8 from 3 against Portland. Like, not really sure what's going on with Harden, if he's just in a shooting slump, if he's maybe hurt. He's been really performing poorly recently. Like, Westbrook has really stepped up. You look at Westbrook's game log, he's been absolutely crushing as of late. Over 60 DraftKings points in like 6 of his last 7 games. I mean, the dude's just playing at such a high level right now. He's playing huge minutes as well. You look at the field goal attempts, like, he has taken a ton of shots. It's almost like Harden's kind of taken a back seat to Westbrook just the last few games. Now, if we're going to have a situation where like Westbrook's like 30, 40% owned and James Harden's like 5% owned, like, I would just play James Harden, but I think it was on the last slate, Harden was similarly priced to Westbrook, and like they were still pretty similarly owned. Like, Harden was like 20% owned, Westbrook was like 30% owned. If that's going to be the case today, like, I would just rather play Westbrook. I think Westbrook does stand out the most on Yahoo because he is a little bit cheaper than all these guys. Like, Harden's 55, LeBron's 55. You do have Westbrook down there at 50, so I like him the most on Yahoo, and I think we can plug him into the early core, at least as of now. With Dallas being so injury depleted today, no Luka, I already know I'm going to be rostering a lot of guys from Dallas, so it does make sense to maybe run it back. This game, I think we have a total on this game right now. 239 is what I'm seeing on Bovada, 239 total, which is really high. That's the second highest on the slate behind Memphis, New Orleans, which is at 241. There's a lot of appealing games today, a lot of high totals, specifically these two games right here, 239, 241 total. You got a 229 total in the late night game. So a lot of appealing games today. This Dallas-Houston game, I think you're gonna see a lot of ownership go to this game, specifically on the Dallas side. Russell Westbrook, though, I do like quite a bit on Yahoo. Now, going over to DraftKings, I do like LeBron for a little bit cheaper than Westbrook. Obviously, LeBron's going to become a priority for me if Anthony Davis is out. I'd have to assume that AD plays, given that he played against Philly like on the 25th. I mean, that was almost a week ago. He's had like a full week off. I assume he plays today. If he's out, though, LeBron would be an even better option. We can take a look at his numbers this season with AD off the floor. You guys already know this, but LeBron does see a pretty big bump in usage when you take Davis off the floor. I mean, he has to do everything. The team or the offense is going to run through him. He's going to be the leader of the team. 36% usage rate with AD off the floor, averaging 1.62 fantasy points per minute. His assist percentage is near 45%. Total rebound percentage near 13%. Definitely like LeBron on DraftKings for a little bit cheaper than Westbrook, but like I said, I think it's going to be a slate where you have a lot of value. It should be pretty easy to get to both guys if that's the route that you want to take. I think there's also a little bit of a narrative here. LeBron playing his first game since Kobe's death. I think, especially if this is also the first game the Lakers are playing at home since Kobe's death because Tuesday's game against the Clippers got postponed. I think there's definitely a narrative here. I would be very surprised if LeBron doesn't put up a big game and kind of in remembrance of Kobe. So you factor in the potential that AD could be out, the narrative with Kobe's death, first game back in Staples Center. Just a lot of things going in LeBron's favor. Not to mention, it's a great matchup against Portland, who's been a terrible defensive team this season. I mean, looking at defensive rating, Portland's towards the bottom of the league, 27th in defensive rating. Like, I'm pretty sure they were like 21st, 22nd. Like, their defense has just been even worse as of late. So, really good spot for LeBron. Just a good spot for all these studs. I mean, Lillard on the other side of the game, you could also target as well. It's a tough matchup for him, but like Lillard has just been playing at such a high level recently. 92, 70, 84, 70 DraftKings points the last 4 games. Some of those games were with CJ McCollum off the floor, but the last 2 games McCollum has played, and it really hasn't mattered. Lillard's just going out there and dominating. Had a triple-double against Houston. He's had success against the Lakers as well. I mean, he's averaged 50 DraftKings points through 2 games against them. These big-time, like prime-time games, these feel like games where Lillard really gets up, tries to play well for. So you could also look to him. He would probably be ranked behind Westbrook and behind LeBron for me. But I definitely have some interest in Dame Lillard as well, especially because there will be a lot of value today. I think there's a narrative today with Devin Booker. He did not make the All-Star team, so if you want to target that narrative, Devin Booker, first game since figuring out he's not on the All-Star team, like you could definitely see him put up a big game today. I wouldn't say it's the best spot against OKC, but Booker's still in play for me. Obviously not a core play, though. Jrue Holiday, his price was really cheap. It bumped way up after he had a big game against Cleveland. He's now up to 8,100 on DraftKings. This is a great spot against Memphis. This is one of the best games on the slate to target by far. Highest total on the slate, 2 incredibly fast-paced teams. I think this Memphis-New Orleans game is also going to be a game we want to focus on. I think Holiday's in play. I'd much rather go to him on Yahoo, though, where his price tag's still really nice at $32. Like, comparing his price to other guys, he's cheaper than Derrick Rose. He's cheaper than Lowry. He's the same price as John Morant. Like, I definitely like Jrue Holiday over on Yahoo today. I think that's where I have the most interest in him. But then other options, Eric Bledsoe, especially if Giannis is out. I do like Eric Bledsoe a ton. John Morant, though, he really stands out on DraftKings. His price has come way down. He's down to $6,900. This is a great spot for him against the Pelicans. This is obviously a great game to target 2 incredibly fast-paced teams. I'm pretty sure it was the MLK Day slate where Morant played the Pelicans. I was very high on him that day. Didn't have the greatest game, just 35 DK points in 34 minutes. But we know John Morant. We know the kind of upside this guy has when he gets big minutes. And right now, he's getting 32, near 34 minutes in competitive games. Only played 28 minutes against the Knicks, but that game was a blowout. The Grizzlies did win by 21 there. Morant still had 44 DraftKings points even in 28 minutes. I mean, this is such a good spot. The Pelicans, a terrible defensive team. Looking at defensive rating, they're 25th in defensive rating. Looking at pace, these are 2 top 6 teams in pace. The Grizzlies rank 4th. The Pelicans rank 6th. This game's going to be a track meet. You're going to want to get a lot of exposure to this game, and I think John Morant at 6,900 on DK really stands out in a fast-paced game. I like him a ton at that salary. DraftKings, like their pricing has been pretty sharp lately, but today the pricing is really soft. There's just so many guys that are underpriced today. Like even Bledsoe didn't get priced up enough. I mean, 7,100 is still too cheap for Bledsoe if Giannis is going to be out. Like they should have bumped him up to like 8,500. Like, I mean, DraftKings, they've been doing a good job with pricing, but today they definitely messed up. I mean, you got some really cheap guys, like even Will Barton for 5,800. No Jamal Murray, no Paul Millsap. Like, he's going to continue to play big minutes. Production's been down, but I think Will Barton's still in play. I did like him quite a bit on Thursday's slate. We'll see how that goes. That game hasn't started yet as I'm recording this video. If Barton puts up a big game Thursday, you could probably see him get a lot of ownership today. Pace up spot against the Bucks. I do like him quite a bit. DeLon Wright with Luka Doncic out. I think DeLon Wright is definitely in play at 5K. It's going to be interesting to see what their starting lineup is. We could see Jalen Brunson start. We could see DeLon Wright start. it's going to be one of those two guys if I had to guess, and then you're going to have like Seth Curry out there. You're obviously going to have Porzingis out there, DFS. Tim Hardaway is questionable, so maybe if Tim Hardaway is out as well, you could maybe see them run like a 3-guard lineup. I don't know if they would do that against Houston. Maybe that might work out actually. There's just a lot of ways this could go. With Luka out, I do expect DeLon Wright to benefit. He's really cheap over on Yahoo, so if you want to play him over there, I think that's where he looks the most appealing. He's only $11. Like, if DeLon Wright does wind up starting at point guard, he's probably going to be one of the best values on Yahoo at $11. I'm going into this slate, though, assuming Jalen Brunson starts, and we'll talk about him in a second. He's going to look like the top value for me. But even a guy like Tomas Satoransky, I mean, Tomas Satoransky's been playing at a very high level recently. Price tag still $4,600 for Satoransky. The dude's getting big minutes right now, 30, 28, 36 minutes, 41, 29, 25 DraftKings points. Like, I still really like Satoransky at this price. I think he's definitely appealing, especially in a matchup against Brooklyn, a team that does play somewhat fast. I'm pretty sure they're like middle of the pack in pace this season. Yeah, they're top 10. They rank 10th in pace. They've really struggled to defend point guards. Like, Satoransky looks like a solid option. Reggie Jackson's been playing well. His minutes have been trending up. Got 26 minutes last game, 37 DK points. Tough spot against the Raptors, but if we're going to get near 30 minutes from Reggie Jackson, he's been a fantasy point per minute player this season. He could be a guy you look to as well. But we do need to talk about Jalen Brunson. I think Jalen Brunson, assuming he starts with Luka out, is probably one of the top value plays today. I got 25 minutes last game against Phoenix. I don't think Luka got hurt in that game. Like, I don't think Luka ever left that game. Brunson was able to get 25 minutes, though. Did play well off the bench. 3,800, it's going to be really hard to get away from him today. He's been a fantasy point per minute player this season with Luka off the floor. We'll take a look at the numbers. You've had a lot of guys. When you take a high usage player like Luka off the floor, I mean, there's going to be a lot of beneficiaries. But let's just see here. We'll take Luka off. Obviously, the guards like DeLon Wright, Jalen Brunson, these guys are really going to benefit. DeLon Wright's average 1.10 fantasy points per minute. Jalen Brunson 1.04. Brunson's got a 22% usage rate. We're going to talk about Porzingis later on in the video. He's averaged nearly 1.4 fantasy points per minute. Even J.J. Barea, if he winds up starting, like J.J. Barea would be a damn near must play. He's got a 29% usage rate, averaging 1.37 fantasy points per minute. Like, Barea has been an incredibly productive player when he gets the minutes, especially when he's not playing alongside Luka. And he got minutes off the bench, 23 minutes. It's not like he's been getting DMPs. I know that game was a blowout, but it was good to see Barea actually got run in that game. There's a lot of ways they could go here. They could start Brunson. They could start DeLon Wright. They could start J.J. Barea. We don't really know. I'm assuming it's Brunson. If we need to make changes, we can. Luckily, this is a 7:30 game, so we'll probably have this news before lock. We'll be able to make the change. But right now I'm going with Brunson. He's very cheap on both sides. Minimum salary on Yahoo, just lock him in. One of the top values right now, assuming he does start. But that's it for point guard. Let's go ahead and move on to shooting guard now. So at shooting guard, looking at guys I haven't talked about. Same thing with Devin Booker. Zach LaVine also did not make the All-Star team, so you can maybe see him come out and try and play well here. 8,500 on DK. Never feel like I have to play LaVine when he's this expensive. This is a good spot, though, against Brooklyn. Brooklyn plays relatively fast. They've struggled defensively against guards this season. I think LaVine's a fine option, especially with the narrative. Like, Booker and LaVine are both in play for me in tournaments, just given the narrative with the All-Star snub. But other shooting guards we can maybe look to. CJ McCollum at 6,400, tough matchup, but his price tag's very appealing. Even guys like SGA look really appealing at 6,700. I think SGA makes plenty of sense. Tim Hardaway got priced up to 6K, so even with Luka out today, I don't really want to go to him. I think I'd rather play Dillon Brooks at the same salary and a great pace game against the Pelicans. I mean, Dillon Brooks, another guy that's just been playing at a really high level recently, been really productive. He put up 53 DK points against the Pelicans earlier this season. He should thrive in a fast-paced game. So I do like Dillon Brooks quite a bit. Then you got the Mavs guys. You got DeLon Wright, 5K. You got Seth Curry, 4,800. Both those guys are for sure in play today. But that's probably what I'm seeing for shooting guard in terms of like value plays. And then you got the Dallas guys, the cheap Dallas guys, Brunson, Barea, you could look to here. But let's go ahead and move on to small forward. Looking at this position, Chris Middleton up to 8K on Draftkings. If Giannis is out, though, you could argue that Middleton is still a little bit too cheap on DK. I mean, the dude put up 76 DraftKings points last game with Giannis out at 51, 10, and 6. Like, this is the kind of upside that Middleton has when Giannis is off the floor. He averages like 1.4 fantasy points per minute, has like a 33% usage rate. Even against Denver, like Chris Middleton would still be a really strong play if Giannis winds up sitting. Brandon Ingram really struggled recently since Zion's kind of been inserted into the starting lineup, and since Zion has started playing with the team, that has really hurt Brandon Ingram. His numbers have gone way down, but this is a great pace game against Memphis, pace-up spot, or not really a pace-up spot, but just a fast-paced game. With the price tag coming down on Brandon Ingram, I do have quite a bit of interest in him today. I think he also looks like a very strong option to pay up for at small forward. Will Barton you could look to in the mid-range. Gary Harris was out Thursday. I don't know if he's going to be out again, but if he is, Michael Porter Jr. should benefit. 5,400, his price tag has also come down. Nice pace-up spot against the Bucks as well, so he could be a guy you look to. In terms of value plays, though, Jay Crowder, I believe, is suspended today. If I'm not mistaken, I think he got suspended. Or maybe it was Jaren Jackson Jr. that got suspended. I know one of those two guys did. I don't think Crowder did. No, Crowder didn't get suspended, but Jaren Jackson Jr. did, which we'll talk about that in a second. So Crowder at 4,500 in a fast-paced game against the Pelicans could also be a guy you look to. With Jaren Jackson Jr. off the floor, I don't know if that really benefits Crowder, but we'll take a look. I imagine a guy like Joe Val is really going to benefit, and I love Joe Val today. We will talk about him in a second. But let's look at the Memphis Grizzlies. Let's take Jaren Jackson Jr. off the floor. He's going to be out. I think Guterich is going to be out as well, but we really don't need to take him off the floor. I doubt that's going to make much of a difference. So let's look at the differential here. Jay Crowder really hasn't benefited much. Really the main beneficiaries, like Dylan Brooks is seeing a little bit of a bump, 2% bump in usage. Brandon Clark, we'll talk about him later on in the video. Joe Val as well, we're going to talk about. I think Joe Val looks like a smash play today. We'll hit on him, but Crowder in a fast-paced game at 4,500 could be a guy you look to for value. I mean, if the game's close, which it should be, he's going to play 30 to 32 minutes. He put up 33 DK points last game in his first game back from injury, so he's a fine value at small forward. But yeah, let's go ahead and move on to power forward. I guess if AD's out, Kyle Kuzma at 3,900 would arguably be like one of the best value plays on the slate. Kuzma he shouldn't be this cheap if AD sits. Obviously, we don't have that news right now. And given the Lakers had like 8 days off, I'm assuming AD plays today, but obviously we'll get that news Friday. Hopefully we get that news before lock, like after shoot around. I mean, it's a 10:30 game, so it's the last game on the slate. Hopefully we get an afternoon update. But let's go ahead and take a look at power forward now. So at the top here, you got Giannis, 11-7 at home against Denver. I do like Giannis here if he plays. This is a game that should stay competitive. We don't have a line on this game right now. I think Milwaukee probably winds up being favored by like 8 or 9 in this game. I like to target Giannis when he's playing in games that are projected to stay close. That's when he's able to get his full minutes. That's when he's able to put up big games. Like I said earlier, there's a lot of value today. It should be pretty easy to pay up for multiple studs. So Giannis is definitely in play for me. Obviously, we're going to need to confirm his status, though. He is questionable. 9 o'clock game. Hopefully, we get some like afternoon update on Giannis, maybe an update after shoot-around. But if he plays, I do have some interest in him. I think at Anthony Davis' salary of $9,600, he looks really, really appealing today. Also, a guy we're going to have to watch, though, with injuries. This is a smash spot for him against Portland. Portland has really struggled defensively this season, like I said earlier. They've really struggled defensively against power forwards. I know that Carmelo Anthony is not expected to play today, but it's going to be like probably Nasir Little and Whiteside guarding Anthony Davis, and that's just a matchup where AD should have a ton of success. So I do like him quite a bit. If he plays, I'm assuming he isn't limited. He played 39 minutes against Philly last game before their kind of like quote-unquote break. 39 minutes, 47 DK points. Definitely like Anthony Davis at the top there. But then you have like Brandon Ingram you could look to. Zion, I think, is interesting. His minutes have been coming up. Played 30 minutes last game against Cleveland. Given that his minutes have slowly started to increase, I have a feeling he can play more than 30 minutes today. I think Zion could probably get 32 minutes. 32 minutes of Zion in a fast-paced game against the Grizzlies. Like, sign me up for that. Zion's been an incredibly productive player this season, averaging over a fantasy point per minute, high-usage player. I definitely like him today. I think he really stands out on Yahoo. $29. We're going to talk about Porzingis in a second, but Zion I still like as well. But yeah, Porzingis is the guy that we need to talk about. So 6,800 on Draftkings, $29 on Yahoo. He is the clear top play on the slate, and I don't think it's even close. With Luka Doncic off the floor, Porzingis has insane numbers. He sees a massive bump, just like Luka gets a massive bump with Porzingis off. Porzingis gets a massive bump with Luka off. So we'll run the numbers real quick. I think the only question you have with Porzingis today is how many minutes is he going to play. Since coming back from his injury, he was out for like a good minute. Like he was out for about 2 to 3 weeks, I think. He's played 27, 25, 25, 26, and 20 minutes. So who knows? I mean, he could play 26 minutes today. He could play 32 minutes. We don't really know. The price tag, though, is so appealing on DraftKings. It's not like DraftKings bumped up his price for Luka being out. They left him. They didn't really leave him at the same price. They actually made him cheaper with Luka out, which really doesn't make a ton of sense. So I think Porzingis can absolutely smash. He put up 51 DK points earlier this season against the Rockets in 33 minutes, and I'm pretty sure that was a game that Luka played in. So just imagine the upside that Porzingis has here if he gets his full minutes. Like, even if he plays 28 minutes, like, he could still go for 45 DK points in 28 minutes, and I wouldn't be surprised at all. This season with Luka off the floor, Porzingis has played 331 minutes, has a near 29% usage rate, averaging nearly 1.4 fantasy points per minute, 17% total rebound percentage. His rebound percentage does go up. Dwight Powell is also out, so we could take Dwight Powell off the floor, see if that increases Porzingis' numbers. Porzingis should be starting at center, which helps his numbers, like his rebounding numbers for sure. Let's take a look. 1.34 really hasn't made much of a difference. But just looking at the differential, I mean, he sees a 2% bump in usage, but 0.17 fantasy points per minute more. Like, that is a massive bump in his numbers. He has really benefited with Luka off the floor. If you remember that stretch where Luka was out, Porzingis was a guy we were paying nearly $9K for. So getting him at 6,800 today makes him a top play on the slate for me, and it's not even close. Really good pace-up spot against Houston, who's playing at the second fastest pace in the league this season. I love Porzingis. He's a lock for me. He's going to be high-owned, I imagine, but it's really hard to get away from him given that he's so freaking cheap on both sites. I mean, $29 on Yahoo, like, he was a $40, $41 player when Luka was out, and we're getting him at $29 today. Like, I'm just locking Porzingis in. If he's chalky, he's chalky. I don't really care. I think the upside's too hard to ignore at this salary. But taking a look at some other power forwards, Jaren Jackson Jr. is out, so we'll talk about who benefits there. Just in this mid-range, though, like, I think Thad Young's a fine option at $5K. He's going to continue to get pretty solid minutes with Markkanen out, with Laurie out. Played 36 minutes last game against the Pacers. Hasn't been productive, just like mid-20s in DK points every game, but the minutes are there, which makes him a fine option. I do slightly prefer Brandon Clark, though, who is cheaper. Brandon Clark at 4,800 on DraftKings I think is a really good value today. With Jaren Jackson Jr. out, I'm assuming either Brandon Clark or Solomon Hill gets the start. We've seen this happen earlier this season whenever I think Jackson Jr. was out and Solomon Hill started. Or maybe it was like Joe Val was out and then they started Jaren Jackson Jr. at center and then moved Hill into the starting lineup at the 4. Like, who knows? It's an 8 o'clock game. Not sure if we'll get this news before lock, but regardless, Brandon Clark should get pretty good minutes with Jaren Jackson Jr. out. He's been getting about mid-20s in minutes off the bench with Triple J healthy. Now with him out, there's a chance you get like 30 to 32 minutes from Brandon Clark. And this is a guy that's been really productive when given the minutes, averaging over a fantasy point per minute in a great, fast-paced game. He looks like a really good value. I definitely like him on Yahoo at $18. I think he stands out most there, but, I mean, he's a really good value on both sites. Regardless, he looks like a very solid option. Under 5K on DK still would be in play for me. But I think that's it for power forwards. It's interesting, like, if Tim Hardaway Jr. is out too, we know Luka's going to be out, but if THJ is out, they could potentially, like, move DFS to the 3 and then start Maxi Kleber at the 4. Just keep an eye on that. We already know that Dallas is going to be a team to target today. We could see some value open up from the bigs as well. I think the guards are going to give us a lot of value with Luka out, but if THJ is out, that could open up some value in the front court with a guy like Maxi Kleber. Just keep an eye on that. Solomon Hill, wanted to talk about him as well. He's 3K. He's stone minimum. If he starts today at minimum salary, like, I mean, he's going to be really hard to get away from, even though he's like not a great fantasy player. Like, he could play like 30 minutes and score like 20 fantasy points, but he's minimum salary. It's just really hard to get away from him too. Like I said, guys, there's just so much good value today, so many viable cheap options. Like, this is a slate where you might be able to play like 3 studs. You might be able to get like 3 10K guys in your lineup and Porzingis with all the value we have. Keep an eye on that Grizzlies starting lineup. If Clark starts, I like him a ton. If he comes off the bench, I still like him. If Solomon Hill starts at 3K, you can definitely go to him as well as a value play. He will for sure be an option I'll be considering at that salary. But let's go ahead and move on to center now. we'll talk about this position just before we end the video. So looking at centers, you got Drummond at the top, who we haven't touched on, 9,300 against Toronto. The price tag is very appealing on Drummond at 9,300. This is a really tough matchup, though, against the Raptors. I still think Drummond can have a lot of success here, especially if this game can stay close. He's had success against the Raptors this season, averaging 53 DK points through 2 games against them. We know he's going to get a ton of usage, a ton of rebounding opportunities with Blake Griffin off the floor. I do have some interest in Drummond, but he would definitely be behind the expensive guards like LeBron, Westbrook, Lillard. Like, I would prefer all those guys over Drummond today. Plus, we have some cheaper centers that I think I would rather go to. But if you're playing multiple lineups, I would definitely want Drummond in my player pool. I forgot to talk about Jokic, but he's definitely in play as well against Milwaukee. Nice pace-up spot here against the Bucks. His price tag plummeted as well. Like, so many guys are just way too cheap today. I don't really know why the pricing is so soft today, but Jokic at 9,400 in a pace-up spot I have a lot of interest in as well. There's just a lot of good stud options today. It's really hard to say this guy's a must-play because there's so many guys that are viable. Plus, there's a lot of good options in the mid-range as well with guys like John Morant, Porzingis. We're going to talk about some of these mid-range centers that I like. DeAndre Ayton, though, I think is really appealing, especially over on Yahoo. If we go over to Yahoo's pricing, look at their center pricing, you do have DeAndre Ayton at $36. I definitely like him at that salary against OKC. This is a matchup where Ayton should have plenty of success. OKC's actually struggled to defend centers this season. Steven Adams, he's kind of been hobbled recently, been dealing with an injury. I think we could see Ayton have a lot of success in this spot. He's been playing at a very high level recently, been very productive, 52 and 51 fantasy points his last 2 games. He's been getting big minutes, 36 minutes, 39 minutes. If this game's close, I'm assuming Ayton plays close to 36 minutes, and I like him quite a bit at $36 on Yahoo. I think he definitely stands out that salary. I didn't mean to. Well, actually, we'll take Ayton now. I thought, never mind. I was gonna put Joe Val in there. Putting in Ayton leaves you $19 remaining, and I usually try and leave like $20 per player. So we'll take out Ayton, and we'll talk about Joe Val in a second. But Ayton you could look to as well. I do have more interest in him on Yahoo than Draftkings. 8,300 on DK. It's a little bit tougher to pay that salary given that you have Drummond for a little bit more, even Whiteside only 100 more. You get a little bit of savings going to Ayton over Whiteside. You get $5 in savings. So I like Ayton the most there. But I think the guy we do need to talk about is Jonas Valanciunas. I think Joe Val looks like one of the best center options today. 6,300 on DraftKings, $28 on Yahoo. He's one of my favorite center options, especially because we know that Jaren Jackson Jr. is going to be out today, which should just solidify Jonas Valanciunas' minutes. His minutes have actually been trending up, though, even with Triple J healthy. Last 2 games, Joe Val's played 34 and 31 minutes. Been very productive, as you would expect. 48 and 37 DraftKings points. I don't really know if that, Triple J being off the floor, I don't think that really benefits Valanciunas a ton. Just he should get more minutes, but we'll take a look at the numbers, see if he gets an increase in usage. I think we've had this situation before where Jackson Jr.'s been out and Joe Val, I think he's put up big games, but I'm not exactly sure about that. But this season, he's played 574 minutes with Jackson Jr. off the floor, 24% usage rate, averaging 1.33 fantasy points per minute. Let's look at the differential there. Really not much of a bump, about a 1.4% bump in usage, 0.04 fantasy point per minute more. Slight bump for Joe Val, but really, I think getting Triple J off the floor solidifies Valanciunas' minutes, especially because they can't close with Triple J at center. I don't see a situation where Jonas Valanciunas isn't in the closing lineup. I think he gets 30 minutes today, if not more. And in a fast-paced game against the Pelicans, 30 minutes of Joe Val, he could easily drop 50 DraftKings points. This is a guy that has so much upside. I love him today. I think he looks like one of the best center options on the slate, and it's not even close for me. You could go to a guy like Jared Allen. He's in a great spot as well against the Bulls. He put up 30 DK points in only 21 minutes against them earlier this season. But you have Joe Val at a similar price tag, and I would just rather go to him because I think Joe Val just gives you so much upside, especially because his minutes should be even more secure today than normal. Derek Favors at 5,500 looks pretty appealing. His price tag's come down quite a bit. The minutes have been down, but this is a spot where you would expect he gets big minutes to match up with Valanciunas. When they played earlier this season, Derek Favors wasn't healthy that game, but I'd assume Favors probably gets 28 to 30 minutes today. If that's the case, in a fast-paced game, he could easily get you a double-double, get you 30 to 35 DK points. So in the mid-range at center, I think Favors is in play. Brandon Clark you could look to, especially if he winds up starting. I think he'd be a really good option. If Giannis is out, I think Brook Lopez at 4,600 is a guy you can take a shot on. Played 32 minutes last game with Giannis out. Wasn't very productive, just 22 DK points, but the minutes were there, which you like to see. He's been a fantasy point per minute player with Giannis off the floor. So I do have a little bit of interest in Brolo. If AD is out, you could obviously target the Lakers guys. Dwight Howard's at 4,600. JaVale McGee, who's probable, he's down here at 3,800. Like, both of those guys will become viable, cheap options. Just so much value today. A lot of ways you can go on the slate. So much value at like every position. You got cheap guards, you got cheap bigs. It just makes for a really fun slate. There's a lot of good stud options as well. So hopefully we can have a big night tonight. I will have my full breakdown of this slate over on Patreon. I'll go in depth, talk about all the guys I like the most at each position. My Patreon article will be posted in the afternoon, so if you want to get access to all my content over there, you can check out the Patreon link down below. You can get in our Discord chat. You can get access to my updated core plays as well. But if you guys did enjoy this video, as always, make sure to drop a like and subscribe if you enjoyed. If you have not yet, click that notification bell as well, so that way you do get notified every time I upload. And you can also follow me on Twitter, link down below at DFS by Noah. Would greatly appreciate it if you'll give me a follow over there. But anyways, guys, best of luck tonight. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and we will see you in the next one. Peace.